One thing I will say is that I'm pretty confident that we're basically at war on multiple fronts, and people are kind of underestimating what all this stuff really means. I guess before we do any underestimating of anything, we're going to do a little bit of Black Rock Old Town. This is kind of like my go-to for coffee nowadays. It's an oddity that how many places around the world seem to be kinetic and how many of those places we seem to be involved in. And so we're going to do an espresso. Funny thing to say is that I have not had coffee today, and I am filming this about 1300 in the afternoon. And that's not a usual thing for me. We have multiple vessels off the coast of Venezuela, or just off the South American coast altogether, at least one submarine, 9 other naval vessels. We have an entire Marine Expeditionary Unit, the 22 Mu, off in the Caribbean or in the actual Atlantic as well. That's unusual. Normally the 22 Mu does exercises in the Atlantic on their way to Africa and Europe. I know missions change, but these missions seem to have changed like dramatically, like just heavy duty change of missions for that stuff down there. So we have that going on. We have one thing that really drew my attention is last week, the destroyer, the naval vessel Lake Erie entered into the Caribbean as well. Give me 1 second, please.
Hey. In Greece, testing the breach, spending breach that I made, putting pens to the sheets.
That vessel entering that area with its capabilities, along with the other vessels that's already there, it's not quite enough force in that area to do a full out like invasion of Venezuela, but it does give me the feelings of Noriega, of even our failed attempt at the Bay of Pigs in Cuba, of just everything that we've done in that area kinetically. I think that we are putting stuff in positions to where we can still execute those type of missions if we wanted to in the Caribbean, in Venezuela, near Aruba. Just kind of keep your eyes open for that. I do know that we have determined the gang Trinidad Agua, however you pronounce them, to be a terrorist organization. And when you are a terrorist organization, sometimes we make stuff go boom. I think the results from us striking that vessel that they said had 11 folks on it, the end results I like, but by the means by which we did it, I may not like. That Hellfire missile, I believe they use is like $1 million ordnance. And so we're using very highly capable warheads for a open vessel that I don't even know if could have made it to America. Like, I don't even know if that vessel could have carried enough fuel to make it all the way to Florida, wherever the hell they were going. Another thing I kind of wonder about is that we took that vessel out, but in normal times, if that same vessel was off the coast of America, they would have just been stopped and arrested by the Coast Guard. But because they were off the coast of Venezuela, we just killed them. I don't know. It does make me wonder. How much of this is like needed? How much of this is just us flexing? And hopefully us flexing does not cost blood and treasure from our troops that are in that region, because I deeply care about stuff like that a lot. So we got Venezuela going on. I think my prediction, you want my personal opinion on the prediction there, is that two things. Number one, I believe that the actions that we're doing in that area could destabilize the region. It could destabilize that area. Maybe that's something that we want to do. We are heavily competing with Venezuela with soybean prices. Our farmers are being just undercut because of tariff pricing. We're heavily competing with them with steel. We're competing just with that region overall when it comes to China. I don't know, disrupting the region might be the goal. That's number one. Number two, regime change or change of the leadership there also could be the goal. I mean, we are not a big fan of Nicolas Maduro. I know, obviously, the last election does not seem to be super legitimate, and maybe he's not the true leader. And I don't know. That's just something to kind of keep your eye on. Like, what does that mean for our pricing here? What does it mean for another change of leadership there? Of course, I'm in communication with my father-in-law who lives in Venezuela. So a lot of this stuff, a lot of my opinions about this stuff is more like firsthand versus just kind of what I'm seeing on the news. The next biggest thing that really draws my attention, which I think I maybe should even led with this, is that we were attacked. We were attacked. And by we, I mean NATO. We're part of the NATO alliance. We keep permanent members in Brussels just in case we need to have meetings. Now, if you don't know, if you're living under a rock, Russia sent at least 19 drones into Poland, but it looks like those drones, none of them had a warhead packed on top of them. And also, this seems to be deliberate. And for me, this is an attack on a NATO country, which is an attack on the NATO alliance, which could have a lot of consequences for everyone overall. Give me a sip. Oh, yeah, that's good. What do I mean by that? So there's Article 4 and Article 5 of NATO. Article 5 has only been voted on and completely enacted once. That was for us. When we were attacked from 9/11, we voted and everyone voted to enact Article 5 of NATO. And in whatever way that you could, they participated in the military operations during OEF and OIF. If you vote to enact Article 5 under NATO, that doesn't mean that you have to stand up everyone in your country in preparation to go to war. We'll talk about what that looks like here in a second. But one thing that was definitely done after this attack by Russia on Poland, Poland has requested Article 4 be enacted of NATO. Article 4 is basically they request a meeting. They request all members convene. That could happen as early today. It may happen tomorrow. As I said earlier, normally every single country, all 32 members of NATO, keep a permanent member in Brussels. So this meeting can normally happen very quickly. In my opinion, I think that the response from NATO needs to be damn strong, because you signaling, you Russia, by sending in drones into the country, you're really testing to see how strong the alliance is. Imagine you have a no trespassing, no soliciting, no loitering sign on your lawn, and you got your neighbors is a college house. It's a frat house. And they always see this sign and they never tested it out. But one day they decided to put a kiddie pool out front, fill it up with vodka, and just see if, would you allow women in bikinis to swim in vodka in your front yard? Or are you going to stand by the no trespassing sign? And because they're not a threat, i.e. the drones didn't have warheads on them, are you just going to write a strongly worded letter? Are you going to do something about it? That's what I think Russia's testing out right now. They're testing out the no trespassing sign, because if for some reason Article 5 is decided to be voted on, it has to be a 32-0 vote, not 31-1. Not 30-2. It has to be a unanimous vote to enact Article 5. And if they enact Article 5, that does not mean every single country all of a sudden stands up like the United States and as many troops we send into Iraq and Afghanistan. It's not the same for countries like any countries a part of the Baltic states, such as Poland or the UK or anybody else in the NATO alliance, France, etc. They may decide to do training alongside of Poland. They may send troops in. They may do special operators. They may send money, but they are vying to help out in this response. We need to do some type of response, we being NATO. And what does that look like? My opinion, that may mean actually putting air defense weaponry in Western Ukraine, maybe even beginning to fly over the skies of Ukraine, maybe shoot down drones that are attacking Ukraine. Although Ukraine is not a part of NATO, you could argue to say that going into Ukraine and, you know, this neighboring country of Poland and actually taking out stuff that's attacking them is protecting NATO. It's similar to the same argument that Israel's making as they completely pop off on everybody in the region. One sip. You know, I had to talk about Israel. Israel they're all about going after Hamas, going after the Houthis, but they have been laser focused on going after the leadership of Hamas. They just did a strike in Doha, Qatar. And Doha, Qatar is a part of a country which has kind of been a no-no country for the United States for a long time. We have U.S. citizens in Qatar. We have a base in Qatar. We have a lot of alliances with the country. And Israel decided to strike the headquarters building of Hamas in that country, the sovereign country. I mentioned this earlier in the summer, and I've kind of stayed away from the subject for a while because it just seemed like there wasn't a big chance for us having to do anything when it came to us, our blood, sweat, and tears. But it feels like Israel's kind of all over the place right now. And I believe that they should be able to protect themselves. But the fact that there's U.S. citizens in Qatar or Qatar, however you say it, and they're sending rounds downrange in Doha, it kind of puts us in this awkward position because, you know, we have a vested interest there. And now we have Israel that if something were to escalate, we are expected to help defend them, whether it is munitions, money, hopefully never troops. So we got these kind of like three fronts going on at the same time. We have the Caribbean, we have NATO, which we're a part of, and we're not directly involved yet. And that doesn't mean that if Article 5 weren't acted, don't expect all of a sudden B-2s to be loaded up with some nukes and be headed to Moscow. That's highly unlikely. But the point is things are escalating. And the prospect for SHTF is a real thing. That's why I got to talk about today's video sponsor, which is Aura and protecting yourself online, because there's so much going on. We saw that Russia had the capability to jam aircrafts and for leadership for NATO as they were in the air just last week. Cyber attacks are real. And one thing that Russia is extremely strong with and other bad adversaries around the world are good at is cyber attacks. If we decide to escalate or whatever, I'm worried about the personal vulnerabilities of myself. 2015, China hacked and took nearly 1 million Americans' information. They got my birthday, my social security number, everything on my credit report. And for 10 years, the government protected my credit because China was able to kind of swoop in and get my information. That has since expired. It's now on me to make sure that I protect my digital footprint. And I'm using Aura for that. I'm using it not just for myself, but for all 5 of my kids and Mrs. X. If our names are being used on the dark web, I get notifications of that. If my email is on the dark web, I get notifications of that. These data brokers that get your information and they're always hitting you up about random loans or refinancing, even if you don't own a house or anything similar to that. These are the things that Aura will help you with, the type of protection that I'm very, very concerned with. Also, you get a good VPN. I have a VPN I'm using on both of my cell phones and multiple computers behind me. The VPN is really good if you're going to be out there browsing the web, helping prevent DDoS attacks, and just giving you peace of mind when you're online. As so much is going on in the world, I think Aura is a good companion for you to try. Click the link down below to start your free trial of Aura and get the best pricing as well if you decide to stick with them. And shout out to Aura for sponsoring today's video. Me personally, all these things happening at the same time is something that we have got to kind of keep our eyes on. What do you think? Do you think that the probability for SHTF, for shit hitting the fan, for blood, sweat, and tears, for us having put in our own treasure is a real thing with all the stuff that's going on in the Caribbean, in Ukraine, as well in the Middle East? I would love to know what your comments down below. First time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.